have you with us on this Friday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Thanks for the view. Thanks for the download. Thanks for the listen. Pass it on. Like us on Facebook and all that other good stuff. Sometimes it's best to just let things run its course. And I think this would be the best move by the Republicans right now. There's a report out there by the Washington Post within the last 24 hours saying that there are some heavyweights in the Republican establishment that are thinking about coming forth with a plan to unearth and unseat the candidacy of Donald Trump and go to a brokered convention to come up with some kind of formula that will keep them from putting this man in the position to possibly be president of the United States. I think it's a mistake. Trump has the resources to do what he wants to do. He could get pissed off and say, you know what? You're doing this at the convention? I'm out of here. In fact, let's move it further than that. I think Trump holds all of the cards right now. All he has to do is tell the GOP, if there is a brokered convention, I will run as an independent. That will back all of these people off because they don't have the guts to do this, because they want the White House. Their best chance right now to get the White House is to just go ahead and support Donald Trump. He has the resources, and guess what? He has the people. Every poll out there now shows that Trump is in total command, and this isn't a flash in the pan. So all he's asking for is respect. You know, let the people decide. We're having this big debate, then we're going to have an election. We're going to have a caucus and primaries, state after state. But apparently some insiders of the Republican Party aren't happy with that, and so they're trying to unseat Trump early on and come up with a formula that is going to knock him off his pedestal. Isn't going to happen. But Trump is now talking about an independent run.
There's a good chance you're not going to get as many delegates to give you the nomination. So if they deny the nomination to you, which is very, very possible, are you going to run on a third-party ticket, thereby handing the election to Hillary Clinton?
I think that I will get the delegates. I'm winning in Iowa big. I'm winning in South Carolina. I'm winning in New Hampshire big.
If you don't.
If I'm treated fairly, I would never do it. If I'm not treated fairly, I might very well do it.
Well, you see, that's where Trump holds the cards. He has the people behind him as far as the majority is concerned when it comes to more candidates. He could just turn to the Republicans and say, if there's any conversation of a brokered conventions, I'm out of here. And oh, by the way, I have the resources to do it. He holds all the cards right now. He is more powerful than I think he's given himself credit for. So now there's another tactic out there. Let's start complaining about media coverage. There were two candidates yesterday who aren't polling very well. First, it was John Kasich yesterday afternoon on CNN complaining about all the coverage that Trump gets. Now it's Carly Fiorina. I don't know if this is part of their candidate talking points, but this is what it sounds like.
There is no doubt that Donald Trump is dominating the airwaves on every single network, and that's reflected in the national polls.
You think it's just about popularity? I mean, we've given you lots of attention. Your numbers have gone the opposite direction.
Oh, come on, Chris. You haven't given me or anyone else anywhere near the attention that Donald Trump receives. On your network, on every other network, he dominates the news coverage day after day after day. And when he stops dominating the news coverage, he makes an outrageous statement so that he dominates it once again.
Well, now, wait a minute. 65% of Republicans agree with him on this Muslim position, and 35% say that they're more likely to vote for him. So if he's got the majority of Republicans with him, how is that outrageous? The Republican Party, again, has an identity crisis. But here's what they're saying behind closed doors. Senator Ted Cruz, who wants to be president, is gaining some momentum. In a national poll recently, he's number 2, but he's still double digits behind Trump. This is what he's saying behind closed doors about his buddies.
Both of them, I like and respect both Donald and Ben. I do not believe either one of them is going to be our nominee. Their campaigns have a natural arc. Who am I comfortable having their finger on the button? I think, look, people run as who they are. I believe that gravity will bring both of those campaigns down.
Gravity will bring both of those campaigns down. In other words, they're going to stumble along the way, and all of a sudden people are going to say, no, they're not who we want. We want Ted Cruz. Give me a break. This is really a very unusual position for the Republicans to be in. They didn't anticipate any of this. They didn't think that all of the negative comments that they have made about President Obama and all the obstruction and all the filibusters and everything that they have, the hate merchant type style of politicking they've done over the last 6.5, 7 years was never going to come back and bite them. It has in a big, big way. And so has Citizens United, because now they have a candidate who has the wherewithal to do whatever he wants to do, and they don't know how to handle it. When we come back, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel in some real tough waters right now. He may be recalled, but what brought it to this point? That's coming up next. Also, Leo Gerard, Steelworkers International President, talking about the latest Pew Research poll showing that income divide in this country is real. Stay with us. We're right back on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, WeGotEd.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.BIOGREENCLEAN and order today. To continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
Perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. The city of Chicago is in turmoil, and it shouldn't be. If you look at the leadership of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, he's the mayor. He's been around the block. Longtime Clinton associate, spent a lot of years in the House of Representatives, chief of staff for Barack Obama. He knows how to do this. But has he been disconnected from the common folk? I believe he has. We covered a story when I was doing a cable show several years ago about how the city of Chicago was going to shut down 50 neighborhood schools because basically they didn't have the money. Rahm Emanuel has been at odds with the teachers union, and it's just been a volcano ever since that. And I said at the time, when you start picking and choosing neighborhoods, you're going to have civil unrest. You're going to have a lot of people who feel like they're getting picked on. And not every school district was getting the resources. Not every school was getting the resources. And what do you think's going to happen? The public's going to turn on you, but it's also going to put every move you make under a microscope. Then, of course, with all of the shootings and gun violence and drug use in the city of Chicago, it's just out of his control. Well, now the people have had enough. And it all came to fruition when Laquan McDonald, 17-year-old, was shot multiple times by a Chicago police officer who, by the way, is out on bail. And that video was not surfaced during his re-election campaign. And the public is sitting there thinking, well, gosh, if that video had come out, maybe we'd have a different mayor right now. Is it manipulation? So now there is legislative action taking place in the state of Illinois where the citizens of Chicago would have a mechanism to recall the mayor, Rahm Emanuel. And spearheading this is Shawn Ford, who's an Illinois state rep, and he joins us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. LaShawn, good to have you with us.
Oh, my goodness. Good morning. You have really laid it out, and I'm telling you, your words have really touched my heart because that's it. That's everything. I just agree with everything that you said.
When you start picking and choosing neighborhoods, you signal that some people are more important than others. And what Rahm Emanuel should have done with all of his political experience, his connections with the president, his connections with the Clinton Foundation, his connections in the House, he should have gone to the federal government and say, if we can't save Chicago, we can't save any city in America. He could have used the bully pulpit. He could have done, but instead what he did Was he decided, well, we're going to shut this school down and we're going to shut this school down. We're going to kick this neighborhood under the bus. And these people don't have any money. They don't have any political power. So we're going to be able to get away with this. Play cut 10 here. And the guy has the audacity to come out and say that he is the voice of the powerless. Listen to this.
My voice is supposed to be for those who are powerless, to make sure that their voice matters as much as those who are in power or have power. And we were
what a phony! The man is a total phony. He never stood up for these communities that needed resources to keep their schools open. What he needed to do was go get federal money. He never attempted to do that. Now, I'm on my pedestal. Mr. Ford, you got to lay this out for us. If I'm wrong, you got to tell us.
You know what? I got to tell you, your words are making me tear up because it hurts to hear it like that because it's so true. And when Rahm ran the first time, I did not support him. And my words in my heart, I was thinking, you know what, even if I don't support him, I know he's going to win, and we should be okay because he's directly connected to the White House. He knows all the business people. He knows Hollywood. He's got every connection. We should be in good shape with this guy. And that's what I thought, too. Even though I didn't trust that would happen, I still believe that if you have the majority of the people voting for him, then I'm wrong. The majority is right. And I said, well, we got him. We should be in good shape.
Well, he sure had the resources to go get millions of dollars to get reelected, but he didn't have the resources to go save Chicago schools and divide up neighborhoods. This is the root of the problem. All right. Tell us about this. Tell us about this mechanism that is going to be in place to recall the mayor, and is it going to happen?
So we have the bill to recall the mayor of the city of Chicago, and it can happen. You know, we don't go back to Springfield until January 13th, but the fact is there's still the possibility of a special session because we have a budget that we have to enact. And there's a possibility that we could work out a deal and have a budget. Or if there's so much civil unrest, there could be a special session to deal with a recall and to put it on fast track the way we fast tracked the recall bill for Blagojevich time. And so I do believe that if the citizens of Chicago, if the people of Chicago really, really want a recall, they can get it.
Do you think there's enough people that are dissatisfied with his performance and his direction as mayor that this recall could happen? I mean, if it were up for a vote, would he lose?
You know, right now I have to tell the protesters and all of the advocates that their work is great. They're showing the world how to protest and the great way to get things done, but we need more. There are a lot of people that's unemployed in the city. There are a lot of people that's not getting the contracts and the jobs in the city. Only cronies are getting them of special people. And so all those people that feel that they have been shut out, they should join this movement to recall the mayor of the city of Chicago because they're never going to get a shot at it as long as this guy is in.
Another root of the problem is that his attitude towards the teachers union. He's taken a real hard right-wing conservative approach towards voices in the workplace. And he has diminished the teachers as if they're not professionals. He's taken personal shots at them. He's been somewhat elementary in his approach to try to resolve the problems with the teachers unions. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that tells you why we have the problem of the crime constantly going up in the city, because his focus is not to make sure that we have a quality first-class education for every neighborhood in Chicago. And so when you leave people out, like you said, disregarding certain communities, you're either going to educate people so that they could go to work, or you're going to disenfranchise them so that they could be criminals and go to jail. And he's made a choice to disenfranchise certain communities, and that's a problem.
Well, it's the problems have multiplied, and this civil unrest isn't going to go away anytime soon. These protesters obviously are energized. They want change. They want fairness. And now that this proposal is in place at the Illinois legislative level, by your leadership, and I point out that you are a Democrat, so this crosses all party lines. This is about people. This is about fairness. This is about equal opportunity and resources. And the country needs to watch this story, because this is what bad leadership does. This is what happens when you go down the road of charter schools and think that somebody's going to walk in and wave a magic wand and all of a sudden we're going to have nothing but charter schools for profit and everything's going to be good in every community. That's not how it works. And Rahm Emanuel is an example for America on how not to run a city. And I hope he gets recalled. And I hope that it's a special set of circumstances in the city of Chicago. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of things that have got to be addressed. But the first thing, getting rid of the police chief isn't going to do it.
No.
It's getting rid of the snake at the head of the snake, I think, is what's going to happen. Let me ask you this, Mr. Ford. How many other legislators are with you on this? Is this going to be hard to drive through?
You know what? Right now, we have Representative Flowers as a chief co-sponsor and Jeannie Ives, a Republican, as a chief sponsor. She called yesterday and said, sign me up. I want to be a chief sponsor of your bill. And she's fired up about it because what we have is a clear cover-up in the city of Chicago for the Laquan. And when you see smoke, you know there's fire. And there's so much more.
Yeah, the Laquan McDonald shooting, that video, the dash cam video, was withheld from the public, and this is Rahm Emanuel's excuse for that.
Holding that video while we were protecting the integrity of the investigation, not compromising it, clearly built up distrust rather than built trust. One of the first things I said to Lori Lightfoot, the entire task force, is you have to look at a policy change.
What do you think of that,
I think that Ford? What he did was suppress the family's right to grieve, and that's what that money was. $5 million was suppressing the family's right to grieve. People need to, that was such a devastating case and situation for the family, and they had to keep it within themselves because that's what the city told them.
Well, there's a view out there that the reason why he didn't make sure that video was released so he could he could get reelected, because if Chuy Garcia had gotten a hold of that video in his campaign, who knows what would have happened.
Well, we know he couldn't have won. With the civil unrest that we see now, with a call for a resignation and a call for a recall of the mayor, how could he? I mean, the business community is going to turn on him because the civil unrest is spilling over into the business district and people are losing money. They can no longer support a mayor that's lost control of the city and lost the confidence of the voters and the trust. How can he move on? I mean, it's like he said about his superintendent. You're no longer able to deal with the problem because you are the problem. Mm-hmm. Rahm Emanuel never should have been the mayor of the city of Chicago anyway. And for him to say he loves the city, that's a lie. Now, no matter what Mayor Daley did, I could say, whether I like him 100% or not, I could say that Mayor Daley loved the city of Chicago. And that's a fact. He may have sold some things out, but we do know that he knew every neighborhood. Yeah. And he took the time to learn every neighborhood. Rahm runs through neighborhoods, and he knows that there are certain neighborhoods that I could care less about. Mm-hmm.
Illinois State Representative Shawn Ford. Mr. Ford, good to have you with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. We'll follow the story. Appreciate your work.
Well,
Thank
Ed,
you.
I have to call you my brother. You are the brother that everybody needs, and I appreciate you taking a stand.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Income inequality has been a big issue on the campaign trail for Bernie Sanders. He's been trying to shine a light on this for months on end, for years on end, for that matter. The income divide in this country is now well documented by the Pew Research Center. I think a lot of it has to do with the attack on unions in this country. Leo Gerard joins me next. Stay with us.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team make it all possible for us to do this Monday through Friday. Good to have you with us. Thanks for the view and thanks for the listen. For the last 4 decades, the Pew Research Center has been regarded in this country as one of the most complete and one of the most thorough research centers in America to find out exactly what is happening. The sociological trend, the economic trend that has taken place in this country is now front and center. We talk and have talked about it for years, the dwindling middle class in America. It is now officially documented by the Pew Research Center. I have maintained the position that the attack on labor in this country for the last 40 years is the culprit, has been the engine for the right wing to divide us economically and drive the income to the top. The union busting that's taken place, the attack on voices in the workplace, the effort to destroy the National Labor Relations Board. I mean, it is a litany of things that the right wing has done, the conservative movement has done to depress wages in this country, all the way to the point where they have greased the skids for companies to outsource jobs overseas, destroy our manufacturing sector and other sectors in our economy, and allow Wall Street to run amok over wage earners in this country, and, oh, by the way, park their money offshore so they don't pay their fair share in the United States Treasury. And they have purchased the United States Senate, except there's only a few left that know exactly what the hell is going on. There's Bernie Sanders, there's Sherrod Brown, there's Elizabeth Warren, and there might be a few others. But those 3 senators, Ted Kennedy-like, have talked about this for years, and now here we are. Here are the numbers. The Pew Research Center's report says that 120 million Americans are in the middle class. 121.3 million are in the lower and upper income households in this country. So the middle class is no longer the majority in this country. And a lot of it has to do with the attack on labor. The income bracket increased 25 to 29%. The high income earners in this country since 1971 has gone up 4 percentage points. We have not seen any kind of movement like that in the middle class in this country. So we have to decide if disposable income and educational goals can be reached by families as we continue to split up economically Americans in the workplace. The only thing that's going to save this country is collective bargaining and voices in the workplace, and yet we are facing, in some 26-plus states, I believe, right-to-work legislation that would destroy workers' rights in the workplace. And if you look at the statistics, you will clearly see that right-to-work states underperform for the middle class in this country wherever there is a right-to-work state. No one can speak to this better than Leo Gerard, who is the President of International Steelworkers. Mr. Gerard, good to have you back with us.
Good to be on the show with you, Ed.
These numbers from the Pew Research Center pretty much document everything you've talked about and the aforementioned people in this piece, that there is no doubt that this is happening in America. Why and what reverses it?
Well, I think that the most important piece to reversing it, or the 2 most important pieces to reversing it, are, first of all, strengthening the workers' ability to join unions and do collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is really the most efficient process for people to sit down, discuss and negotiate and come to terms with the wealth that's being created or the services that are being provided in an efficient and factual way. And in fact, there is a lot of research, some of it done from years past by the Pew Research Foundation, that shows that collective bargaining is the most efficient way to manage a workplace, because unions or workplaces with unions have higher productivity levels. So that's been an ongoing known fact now for a generation. Then what we need to do is repatriate all the jobs that have been given away to corporate America and given corporate America the ability to drop their plants wherever they have the least obligation to decent wages and working conditions. All we got to do is see what's happened in Mexico, to use that as an example, and what's happening to Mexico in the auto industry and the auto parts industry. Now we have almost as many cars being made in Mexico as are being made in the Midwest of America, and growing. All we have to do now is see what's going on with the TPP. I was reading an article yesterday where Vietnam is projecting 30% increase in their exports, and already because of the potential of TPP, global multinationals are looking at putting facilities into Vietnam where they can then export to America duty-free.
Well, advocates such as yourself and other union leaders have really made a statement on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, to the point now that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is quoted in The Hill today saying that it might not happen during Obama's watch, that it may get kicked to the next administration, that it's not going to happen this year. And that was the first thing that McConnell said after the midterms. He said we can find common ground with the president on trade. That was one of the first things he talked about the day after the midterm elections. Well, all the advocacy work and all the educational work that has taken place in this country to get lawmakers to wake up and realize how this is going to gut American jobs. We're going to do deals with countries with Sharia law. I mean, this is the worst trade deal. Every single union in this country is against it. It looks like, and if someone had said that this is where we were going to be a year ago, I think I would have been surprised. Conventional wisdom was that they were going to get it. But advocacy work has turned this around. Would you agree?
And I'm convinced that this trade deal is so bad, and that if you look at history of previous trade deals, whether they be NAFTA, whether they be the Central American deal, whether it be the deal with Korea and Colombia and all of those trade deals, the historical record on that is so bad that American voters, the average American in the public, has said, whoa, you're not going to trick us again this time. And I can tell you that I'm extremely proud. I'm a member of the President's Advisory Committee on Trade, along with President Dennis Williams from the UAW and Jim Hoffa from the Teamsters. And we authorized a dissenting proposal, on TPP, and that's gone to the President. We've got the Labor Advisory Committee on Trade, and we've submitted a 32-page document pointing out in detail not only the shortcomings of the TPP, but the stuff that will take us backwards, like, for example, rules of origin. The administration can't hide behind the rules of origin issue any longer and say no, because we just saw the WTO has told America the $500 million fine if they don't remove the labeling on food, rules of origin labeling on food. So
that's a perfect example. That's a perfect example of how an international tribunal can circumvent American law and tell us what to do.
And look, that's one of the concepts of the whole trade agenda pushed by the global multinationals. Whether it's the European trade deal called TTIP, whether it's the deal they want to do with China on services, all of these deals are designed to be able to bypass the national sovereignty of the nations that are involved. So you don't get to take a trade case to the Congress or to the USTR. You've got to take it to the WTO, and if the party that claims they were injured wants, they can sue the country.
Yeah.
So you got an example in Australia where the tobacco industry is suing the Australian government for lost profits because the Australian government wants to put on the outside of a cigarette package the danger to your health.
And that's exactly what Mitch McConnell is telling the White House right now. You got to back off on tobacco. It's all special interests, but it's all coming home to roost right now, isn't it, Leo?
It hopefully is, and we're going to work hard. And the fact is that the documents that we've provided, whether it's our dissenting document on the TPP from the President's Advisory Committee, whether it's our LAC Labor Advisory Committee on the Trade sent out. What we do is we document in factual detail why this is wrong, and look at the rules of origin on auto and auto parts. And people are can easily get confused. To be considered a domestically produced, or I won't call it domestically produced, to be considered produced in a way that allows you to not be having to have a duty on it, a tariff, it has to be made at a certain percentage by the TPP countries. Mm-hmm. So now we'll say that in auto parts it's somewhere between 35% and 45%, depending on which parts of the auto parts. Well, let me put it this way. If it's 45% from TPP countries, that means part of that 45% could come from Singapore, it could come from Malaysia, could come from Brunei, where there's Sharia law. It could come from Vietnam, where unions are outlawed, and most recently one of the high-profile union organizers in Vietnam was put in jail. It can come from those countries. So that means of that 45%, a whole bunch of it could come from TPP countries that are, 26 cents an hour.
Sure.
Or it can then, the additional 55% could come from China. Mm-hmm. So China gets a seat at the table without ever being at the table. This is crazy.
It is absolutely outrageous. And the good news is a year and a half ago, when we started pounding on this, a lot of members in the House didn't know what the hell we were talking about. And it's been a long...
We're driving the agenda now.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Driving the agenda to the point where the Republicans are backing off because they're going home hearing from constituents that this is a bad deal. And
at our plan from the Steelworkers, we just finished our board meeting. We issued a unanimous statement on, and hopefully you can get it off our website.
Sure.
On our Steelworkers statement on the TPP. Again, factually represented with folks can go and just read the true facts, not the baloney. And then on top of that, our plan is to create a structure where we're going to identify every congressional district where there's a substantial amount of industrial capacity going on. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to train people, and we're going to have those people go into those congressional districts, whether they're Republican or Democrat, and hold forums, educate the public, and then ask the public to take some step to educate their member of Congress. And I think the more we do that, the more the public is going to see that this is a bad deal that's going to cost not only them their jobs, but cost the jobs of the future generations.
United Steelworkers International President Leo Gerard, great friend, great resource. Keep up the fight, my friend. Hope you're feeling better. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you very much, brother.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This is Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. There's one other political facet that's very interesting here dealing with this issue. The Bernie Sanders campaign forced the hand of Hillary Clinton to take a stand on Keystone and on trade. She's come out and said that she is against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now Mitch McConnell is having cold feet on it, saying it might get kicked to the next administration. Well, if that's the case, it would seem to me that all candidates have to restate their position on the Trans-Pacific Partnership to make it crystal clear that if they're president, this isn't going to go through. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. Have a great weekend. We're back Monday.